Hello, and welcome back to the Ghosty Girls podcast.
Hi, we missed you.
We missed you.
I missed you. I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks.
I know. Alicia went on a little mini vacation to Great Wolf Lodge and didn't bring me because she's a bitch.
It's true. They couldn't handle the two of us there. Let's be honest.
They really couldn't. No. I would agree with that. How are things?
Things are great.
Good.
Same old shit, different day.
Same shit, different day.
How are things with you?
It's, going all right, and no, I'm living life, I guess you could say. Trying to.
Yeah. Listen, sun rises, sun sets, and we get through it.
So have you ever just wanted to live a chill existence and not worry about anything and not have any anxiety, no mental health issues that most of us deal with, and just not care about anything, just live happily, no worries, no stress, just chill.
I'm over here shaking my head like everyone can see me. Yes, I would, very much so.
Did you know back in the day, there was a procedure that essentially, in theory, would make that happen for people?
I did not. However, would that be a ticket to Hawaii for my fat ass to just sit my fat ass on the beach? I said fat ass twice. Could I just sit my fat ass on the beach is what I'm trying to say in Hawaii?
Well, it wouldn't involve Hawaii or beaches or anything, but it would involve drilling holes in your head or an ice pick through your eye socket. Can I entertain that idea with you?
No, that sounds terrible. Then again, maybe if I would think I was on a beach in Hawaii, sure, maybe.
You wouldn't know what the fuck was going on.
Okay. Well, tell me more.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
So I'm sure that you're all familiar with the term lobotomy. But for anyone out there who is confused as to what a lobotomy is, or perhaps doesn't know because you, in fact, had a lobotomy performed on yourself at one point and you wouldn't remember, right? Awesome. Isn't that weird to think about?
Yes.
Maybe we all have lobotomies and we just don't remember.
And somehow after we had a lobotomy, then they put us in this dimension and what do they call it? We're in the Matrix.
Yeah. How would we even know?
I don't know. We just solved 100% of all the... Did your light just dim?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, I'm not crazy.
We always have weird shit happen when we record podcasts.
I love it. Oh, there it goes. Now it's back.
It's so weird. Huh. Well, a lobotomy is, in a nutshell, a surgical, and I'm using air quotes on the word surgical, procedure that involves manually severing the connections of the brain, including the prefrontal cortex, in hopes to cure a variety of mental illnesses from schizophrenia to bipolar disorder to post-traumatic stress disorder, and even something as common as depression and anxiety, which, the majority of people have, right?
Probably 99% of Americans.
Yeah.
Or the world at this point.
Shit, if you were a woman back in the day, you may have even had a lobotomy performed on you if your parents or your husband deemed you too unruly for them to control.
Oh, shit, we did.
Yes. And speaking of women, the majority of lobotomies were performed on women with the consent of their husbands, might I add. And by the 1950s, it was estimated that out of the total number of lobotomies performed, more than 70% of them were performed on women.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
Other reasons for performing a lobotomy included insomnia, chronic headaches, and, wait for this, homosexual tendencies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So So if you were gay... they would try to lobotomize you in hopes of removing your gayness. And we all know that works, right?
100%.
Yeah.
It would take your headache away, though.
I feel like it would probably make it worse for a little bit, especially if you're getting an ice pick to the eye socket.
That's fair.
Yeah. Or drilling in your head. But you probably wouldn't know that you were having a headache, or it wouldn't even bother you because you wouldn't have the ability to be even bothered by it, right? But to truly understand the lobotomy, we first need to explore the history and the origins, because the time period did have a lot to do with the massive popularity of the lobotomy procedure. Most importantly, we need to keep in mind that the lobotomy came at a time in history where there was pretty much zero options for mental health issues. There was no pill that you could take. There was no treatment. And adding to that was also the huge stigma regarding mental health issues, even more so than what we experience today. So, I mean, in this day and age, there's still a lot of stigma regarding mental health. Back then, it was even worse.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, the lobotomy actually dates back to the late 1800s, which is amazing to me. I didn't think that it went back that far. The first series of lobotomies ever performed was by a Swiss physician named Gottlieb Burckhardt, who decided to test out this procedure on a handful of patients at the asylum that he was in charge of. It's said that he was inspired by German doctor Friedrich Goltz, who conducted surgical experiments of the brain on animals and would afterwards note any changes in the animal's personality and behavior. So they started testing lobotomies on animals. So what Burckhardt would do is he would essentially remove sections of the cerebral cortex in hopes that this would make the patients at the asylum more manageable. Despite having fairly good intentions, the lobotomy procedures that were performed by Burckhardt were met with mixed reviews and mixed outcomes, which you will see is a common theme throughout this episode. While some of the patients were said to be, quote, more manageable after the procedures, it did not come without tragedy. One lobotomy patient actually died after developing epileptic convulsions after the procedure, and another committed suicide after. So clearly, these lobotomies did not work.
Well, it sounds like they were, never mind.
Yeah, botched lobotomies.
I can't.
2 other patients had absolutely zero change in their behavior and mental status. So nothing even happened to them. Nothing. Yeah. And the final 2 patients were deemed a success as they became, quote, quieter and thus more manageable after the procedure. I don't know about you, but those odds don't really seem that good to me. Call me crazy, but
2 out of how many?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was a success.
Not at all.
Burckhardt was very excited with the outcome of his surgical procedures, despite the mostly shitty results. And he published a report and presented his findings to the Berlin Medical Congress. But instead of receiving massive praise for his so-called medical advancements, Burckhardt was actually met with a lot of pushback and rejection from his peers in the medical field.
So a lot of people disagreed with his actions.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. He apparently went in front of this board of peers and was like, oh my gosh, look what I did. Here's the results. He was super excited about it. And they were like, nah, this is a horrible idea. And actually, your results aren't even that good, sir. Please take a seat.
Stop killing animals
Verbatim.
and humans.
Yeah, so they were not feeling it. And because of this, the practice of the lobotomy took a little bit of a pause. That is, until 1935, when a Portuguese neurologist by the name of Antonio Egas Moniz came along. And a little fun fact about Antonio is that he pretty much invented the whole concept of psychosurgery. So he was like the godfather of psychosurgery, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Antonio decided that he was going to bring back the lobotomy, and he performed a lobotomy procedure in 1935 on, you guessed it, a woman.
No.
Mm-hmm. And this woman was 50 years old, and she suffered from severe OCD, anxiety, and paranoia. The surgery consisted of drilling holes into her head and then filling the holes with ethyl alcohol, which was injected directly into her prefrontal cortex.
Well, I'm sorry. Was she under anesthesia? Like, do we know anything about
At this point in time, they did not put them under anesthesia.
Oh my God. Can you imagine alcohol touching your brain?
No. Nope.
Fuck's sake.
And this is a really weird thing to add, but also, like, and we will get to Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer tried to make a quote-unquote zombie out of one of his victims by drilling a hole in their head and filling it with, I'm pretty sure it was alcohol. So that's just like a connection between the lobotomy and a serial killer. There you go.
Boom.
Little FF fun fact.
Is it fun, though? Yes, it's fun. It's fun for us.
So as gross as this all sounds, apparently the woman experienced a decline in her symptoms. So this lobotomy was considered a success, but she never was able to leave the asylum.
Of course not.
Right. Despite this helping her symptoms, she still spent the entirety of her life in an asylum. So again, was this a success? Meh. I don't really know.
Like you said earlier, she just didn't give a shit after that point because she couldn't feel her brain.
That's exactly what happens. Yep. Moniz and his fellow surgeon, Pedro Almeida Lima, and I apologize if I'm saying these words wrong, but I'm American. I'm sorry.
Sounded right to me.
They continued to perform this procedure on multiple patients with varying degrees of success. Moniz was such a pioneer of the lobotomy that he actually won a Nobel Prize in 1949 for his work on lobotomies.
Stop.
Nope, I will not stop.
Oh my God.
And it was this work that eventually grabbed the attention of an American man named Walter Jackson Freeman. And Walter Freeman was actually from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Local.
Yeah. Now, it's important to note that Walter was a physician, not a surgeon. Okay.
Oh.
Despite him not even being remotely qualified to perform any kind of surgery, let alone one on the fucking brain, Walter decided that he wanted to get a little piece of the lobotomy action. So, to understand the rise of the popularity of the lobotomy in the United States, one must first understand exactly who Walter Freeman was and what his actual intentions were. Walter Freeman was born on November 14, 1895, and excellence was expected of him right out of the womb.
Scorpio.
Yeah. Scorpio energy.
Boop, boop.
His grandfather was a very successful and talented surgeon in the Civil War era, and his father was also a very successful physician. Seeing the attention, love, and praise that was constantly bestowed on his father and grandfather, Walter decided that he too wanted to be recognized and idolized. In 1924, Walter left for Washington, D.C. to pursue his career in neurology. And this is a little interesting fact. He was actually the very first neurologist in the city of Washington, D.C.
That's cool.
Yeah. After earning his Ph.D. in neuropathology, Walter began working at George Washington University as the head of the neurology department.
So he's teaching people too. Watch out.
Oh, yeah, right. And moved by Moniz's work, Walter then decided to perfect the lobotomy procedure, but there was one small problem. He was a neurologist, not a neurosurgeon.
They both have the word neuro.
Big difference there. So to bystep this little issue, Walter approached his friend and colleague, a neurosurgeon named James Watts. And he was like, yo, you want in on this shit?
What up, James?
And James Watts was like, hell yeah, I do. Verbatim. That's how the conversation went.
I imagine it did.
In my mind anyway.
It was over a cup of Starbucks and Chili's.
Yeah, it was over a lunch at Chili's that they decided.
And then they celebrated with a Starbucks.
Yes,
afterwards.
they did. Yeah. I mean, it's fact, okay?
Yep.
I read it on Google.
The internet told me so.
Yeah. And the internet never lies.
Ever.
President Abraham Lincoln said that.
Yes. Fourscore and the internet never lies.
Exactly. And on September 14, 1936, Walter and James tag-teamed their very first prefrontal lobotomy on a 63-year-old housewife from Kansas named Alice Hamat. And Alice was suffering from depression and insomnia. After the procedures, the doctors asked her how she felt, and she said that she felt nothing. She was asked if she could remember what she had been so emotional about, and she said she couldn't remember. She had no idea. So the surgery was deemed a huge success because she didn't remember shit.
I love it, and maybe we should bring them back.
I love it, and I also hate it.
I strictly love it.
Now, despite this quote-unquote success, and yes, again, I'm using air quotes because I personally don't feel as though cutting someone's brain in an attempt to get them to forget all their problems is an actual solution.
No?
But I digress. Despite this success, the lobotomy did not come without side effects. Many people who underwent a lobotomy procedure were left permanently incontinent. Some of them experienced a complete loss of personality. So essentially they were like a walking zombie that would just piss and shit themselves and had to be taken care of.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, success.
Oh, yeah.
Meh.
Touche.
Slurred speech, uncontrollable episodes of spontaneous laughter, random episodes of biting for no reason, compulsive eating because they had nothing in their brain to signal that they were full anymore.
Oh, that
right?
makes sense.
Epilepsy, dementia, hemorrhaging of the brain, death, and some of them even fell victim to strange repetitive motions, such as continuously wiping their bodies even if they weren't wet. Yeah, it's weird, right?
That is weird.
One man was said to perform arm movements like he was pouring an imaginary cup of coffee over and over.
It's probably just muscle memory at that
Probably.
point. That's
Yeah, because
crazy.
your brain is fucked up. I mean, it's brain damage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So men would have, this is the scariest one to me.
Oh, no.
Men would have trouble with inhibitions. And since lobotomies essentially cause most of the patients who underwent them to revert back to the mentality of a child, they would do random things like masturbate in public, grab female nurses,
Stop.
etc. Yeah. Nurses in asylums were actually trained in resistance measures, which included tickling the male lobotomy patients in an effort to get them to stop the inappropriate advancements.
Sir, stop touching my titties. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Can you imagine?
No, but yeah. I mean, it sounds funny, but yeah.
It's
Creepy, right?
That's, yes. Tickle, tickle.
Hello, tickle, tickle.
Chilly. I don't know why I said that. Sorry.
When I read that, I was like,
What?
so nurses were trained in this.
To tickle.
Yeah. Sorry, my Starbucks was jingle jangling. I apologize. But
It's all right. Let's give them some ASMR. MSRP.
Starbucks ASMR. But the fact that nurses were trained in this shit, that was mind-blowing to me.
When you tickle someone, make sure you take your fingertips gently under the armpit. Like, how do you train someone how to tickle?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's weird.
It's so fucking weird.
But interesting.
It is, yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense because again, this procedure was literal brain damage.
Yeah.
These people suffered brain damage. And I mean, it's no surprise considering what the lobotomy does. Now, aside from that little tidbit about men losing their inhibitions and essentially like sexually assaulting nurses in asylums and them having to be trained in tickling measures, the other crazy side effect that I found in my research was that lobotomy patients actually stopped going to church and they lost all their interest in religion or spirituality after the procedure. So the spiritual aspect of their personalities was completely eradicated. Isn't that crazy?
That's really weird.
It is. And it kind of sent my brain on a spiral. Like, what is religion then?
Right.
Like, you can literally remove it from someone's brain and then they don't care about it. You're essentially removing like a key point of their personality.
Maybe let's not put that into the universe at this point in time.
Yeah, right.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. It's really creepy. If a lobotomy failed in Walter's eyes, meaning if there was zero change in the patient's behavior, he would go as far as performing 2 and sometimes even 3 lobotomies on the same person.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I don't mean to like smirk, but we laugh when we're uncomfortable. We already know this, but
I mean, this is from a long time ago.
Yeah.
This is as weird as it is. It's a very important part of medical history.
well, yeah,
This
is crazy. This is, I'm learning a lot. This is nuts.
Yeah. Aside from failed lobotomies and even death on the table during the procedure, the most common outcome was just a straight up botched lobotomy. And probably the most famous botched lobotomy was the lobotomy of Rosemary Kennedy of the Kennedy family. And Rosemary was actually the sister of President John F. Kennedy. So yeah, buckle up because this gets fucking wild. This is sad and it'll make you angry as well.
Oh.
So Rosemary Kennedy was born on September 13, 1918 in Brookline, Massachusetts, and was by all accounts not the easiest child to raise. It's said that Rosemary suffered from a variety of developmental delays as well as behavioral issues. And you'll see why in a second. Something that I found interesting in my research was that during birth, Rosemary's mother was told by a nurse to keep her legs closed until the doctor could get there. We all know this doesn't work, right?
Nope.
And, you know, when a baby is ready to come out, it's ready to fucking come out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They coming.
Yeah. Instead of delivering the baby, which the nurse knew how to do, mind you, this nurse took the baby's head and pushed it back into the birth canal and held it there for 2 hours.
Why?
They were waiting for the doctor, and apparently there was a shortage of doctors at that time due to the Spanish influenza outbreak.
Listen.
The nurse's excuse was that it was protocol to wait for the doctor, but this bitch knew how to deliver a baby. So yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that Rosemary had some developmental issues due to that.
Well, of course she would. God bless her. I can't.
I know. It really, really pisses me off. Rosemary's mother was allegedly very embarrassed of her daughter, and she tried to keep Rosemary's disabilities a secret as much as she could. She had a really difficult time learning how to read and write and was subsequently sent off to a boarding school in Pennsylvania at the age of 11. Now, to understand what happens next, it's important to understand that the Kennedy family were huge believers in eugenics. And if you don't know what eugenics is, it's the study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable. And that is a direct quote from Google, because I wanted to present that definition as is. I didn't want to, put my own spin on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just gonna.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So essentially, eugenics was the belief that certain genes were desirable for the human race and certain genes were not. Like anything that was considered a disability was not ideal. Okay. This was also popularized by the Nazis in order to justify what they did to Jewish people, minorities, and people with disabilities. So let's keep that in the back of our minds, that the Kennedy family was, and probably still is, believers in the eugenics movement.
Oh my God.
Food for thought when you think of current events.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this had my the light bulb above my head blinking a lot. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to take in.
It makes sense when you think about it, right?
Just give everybody a second. Yeah.
Believe in eugenics. Let that marinate.
I don't want it to marinate anymore.
Yeah, that made a light bulb go off in my head, because I'm thinking, how many people don't know about that? How many people don't know about this part of history?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and I'd like to think I'm a little bit intelligent. A little bit. Not a lot.
No, you are, but it's like we're not taught these things, so you're not going to find out until you seek it out. You know what I mean? It's scary. So even though Rosemary was sent away to boarding school, things didn't really get much better for her. By her early 20s, she was becoming increasingly unruly and difficult for the family to handle. And apparently she was going to a Catholic school, and the nuns told her mother and father that Rosemary was sleeping around with lots of different men. And this further embarrassed the Kennedy family, of course, because they are all about their image, getting one of their sons to become president.
All the things.
Yeah. I personally don't believe that Rosemary was sleeping around with a lot of different men. I could be wrong, but
if it was a Catholic school,
she was at a Catholic boarding school. Yeah.
Right. in my mind, I'm assuming it's all women, but maybe it wasn't. But at the same time, it's Catholic, and I guarantee you, like, somebody could just start a rumor.
Yes. And also, if you think about it, the nuns were stating that they were concerned that Rosemary was either going to get an STD.
Okay.
Or that she would become pregnant. Let's talk about eugenics again and the Kennedy family. Okay. Do you think that they would want their daughter getting pregnant with her disabilities?
Touché. No. Oh,
things that make you go, Isn't this so fucking weird, man?
This story is awesome. This is a lot.
It's a lot to digest. Yeah. And just the fact that it has, like, political ties, like, is fucked, man.
Yeah.
That poor... I'm going to keep going.
Keep going. Yeah, I'm sorry. We digress.
It gets worse. Like, I feel so fucking bad for Rosemary Kennedy. She had no fucking chance from the beginning. And she was born into this shitty-ass fucking family. I said what I said. I don't give a fuck. The Kennedys suck.
Yeah, suck my dick.
Fight me about it. I don't fucking care. You know what? I'm going to take back, like, fuck the Kennedy family. They're all assholes, because I don't think all of them are assholes, but the majority are.
I would say the mom being embarrassed by her daughter with needs.
Dad's even worse. Wait till I get to it.
Can eat a big fat dick. Well, the mom was probably embarrassed because the dad was, and that's... I don't know.
She believed in eugenics as well, so I legit think that I think that she looked at her daughter as a burden.
Yeah.
And you'll see why.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you keep going before I throw stuff out.
I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. I'm going to go as far as saying that the mom regretted even having her. And you'll see why I say that.
It breaks my heart, though.
It's fucked up. So, the Kennedy family is getting more and more embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't have this. They were trying to have political careers. Their sons were trying to have political careers.
Yep.
They couldn't have an unruly daughter who was out fucking everybody, and, like, they just couldn't have it, right?
God forbid.
Yeah. So, because they were so embarrassed, in 1941, at the age of 23 years old, Rosemary's father drove her to George Washington University to undergo a lobotomy, which was performed by none other than Walter Freeman and assisted by James Watts. And the most fucked up part of this is that her father never even told her mother that he was taking her to be lobotomized.
Are you serious?
I'm dead ass serious.
That's a dick move.
Yeah. James Watts, the physician who assisted Walter Freeman in the lobotomy, described this event in the book called Sins of Our Father, which is a biography of Joe Kennedy, who's Rosemary's father, and it's written by Ronald Kessler. Here is a little excerpt from that book. After Rosemary was mildly sedated, we went through the top of her head. I think she was awake. She had a mild tranquilizer. I made a surgical incision in the brain through the skull. It was near the front. It was on both sides. We just made a small incision, no more than an inch. The instrument used looked like a butter knife. He swung it up and down to cut the brain tissue. We put the instrument inside. Then, as her brain tissue was cut, Rosemary was asked to perform simple tasks such as reciting the Lord's Prayer, sing God Bless America, or count backwards. We tried to estimate how far to further cut based on how Rosemary responded. When she became incoherent, they stopped cutting. Dr. Watts later states that in retrospect, he thinks that Rosemary was just suffering from depression. So once she became completely incoherent, they knew that they had cut too much and it was too late. Her brain was fucked. Yep.
That pisses me off.
It's so fucking sad. After the lobotomy, Rosemary was, for lack of a better term, she was just completely fucked. She became completely incontinent. She could no longer speak intelligibly. She could no longer walk. And it's said that her mental capacity was reduced to that of a 2-year-old. And you think that the Kennedys were embarrassed of her before?
Mm-hmm.
Woo, boy, now they were really fucking embarrassed.
I hope they learned.
Into an institution she was sent. And she was fucking left there. Her father never visited her at the institution. Never visited her.
Would she have recognized anyone? Probably.
Maybe.
I mean, 2-year-olds recognize people.
Her mother left her there for 20 years before she bothered to go see her.
That's crazy.
20 years. The parents explained Rosemary's absence from the family by stating that she was, quote, mentally retarded. That's their words, not mine. And never once told the family about her lobotomy. So President John F. Kennedy had no idea what happened to his sister. None. They wanted to protect the family name and their political dignity. So Rosemary was pretty much completely forgotten about until the death of Joe Sr., the father, in 1969. It's said that when Rosemary's mother finally came to the institution, over 20 years of not seeing her own daughter, Rosemary, quote, physically recoiled from her mother and became extremely agitated and upset. So she knew.
Well, yeah.
Even in her state, she still remembered her mother and the years of pain that her mother had caused her by being embarrassed of her and not being there for her.
20 years. Can you? I've said so many times in this podcast, can you imagine? But
no.
This shit happened.
Yes, it really did. One good thing to come out of this was that after Joe Kennedy Sr. died, the siblings were able to rekindle their relationship with Rosemary.
Aww.
Yeah. They did visit her often, and they did everything they could to integrate her back into the family.
Oh.
Yeah. Her nephew even built a little room for her in his home that she could come and stay and visit.
Aww,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Rosemary lived until 2005. Is that crazy?
That's not, that's like...
It's recent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's less than 20 years.
Yep.
18.
She died of natural causes and had all of her remaining siblings by her side. Yeah.
Huh.
So, I mean, thank God for her siblings because her parents were straight up fucking trash.
Yeah, I take back when I say suck my dicks to the Kennedys. Just the parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's... How the fuck as a mother do you leave your own daughter in an institution after a failed lobotomy to just fucking rot?
I wonder if she was forced to do that.
Let me tell you something. No one is going to keep me from my daughter.
Agreed.
No one is going to keep me from visiting my daughter in an institution. No one is going to keep me from being there for my daughter. Mm-hmm. So there's no fucking excuse. Fuck that mom. I said what I said and I stand on it.
I mean, being a mother as well, like I agree. Like nothing would keep me away from Jackson.
Like you know what? I'll blow the whole fucking family up. Meaning like I'll divorce you. Not like literally blow up, but like I will blow the family up. Like I will divorce you. You're letting me see. It's not even letting. Okay.
No. Absolutely not.
It's not letting me see my daughter. You're not letting me do shit. I do what I want to do.
Times were different for women back then, though.
See, I don't.
That's the only...
Is that why I didn't exist back then? Because I would... There ain't no fucking way.
You were probably Amelia Earhart.
You think?
I do.
Aw.
I think you were one of those women that's like, fuck it, I'm going to do this. Man can do it, watch me. I don't have a penis, but I can do it 3 times better.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
It's true, though.
I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe I was a man in a past life because I just have that energy. Like, I can't. I don't know.
No, you have bad bitch energy. Like,
oh, thank you.
Like bad as in, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
she's a bad bitch.
Yeah, well, you do too. That's why we're friends.
I do sometimes. Other times I have nice unicorn glitter fart energy. Right now I have Ursula energy.
I love Ursula. She's one of the best ones. She's one of the best villains.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, we digress.
So by the time 1945 rolled around, Walter decided that he needed to really perfect his art and streamline the lobotomy to steer it away from a surgical procedure. He wanted to make the lobotomy easier and more accessible.
Great idea.
Yeah, because it's going so well the way he's doing it that he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make a little tweaks. And if you remember in the Rosemary story, we talked about how holes had been drilled into her head. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was done up until 1945. They would shave part of your head and proceed to drill holes into it with what was essentially a fucking butter knife. Stick the butter knife into the holes and just fucking slice.
I meant to say earlier when you said when you were reading the excerpt, is that how you say it? Excerpt?
Yeah.
Well, he said it was a small hole. It was 1 inch. An inch is not small.
It's not. No.
You're welcome.
Not in your head.
You're welcome, men.
No, but seriously.
But an inch it's like this. It's like the tip of your thumb. That's like an inch.
Well, and if
that's
you think...
insane.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's... you're right. It is insane. It's fucking insane. So Walter gets this bright idea, inspired by the previous work of an Italian physician named Amaro Fiamberti. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
That sounded amazing.
Thank you.
It's 100% right. If it's not, fuck them.
I just thought it would be fun to say it like that. I don't know.
Maybe with a voice changer.
Humberto. So yeah, he was inspired by this work, and he got the bright idea of, hey, what if we can actually access the brain through the eye?
Great idea.
Yeah. And with this revelation, the icepick lobotomy was born.
I can't.
Yeah. And you want to know where the original icepick that was used to perform the first icepick lobotomy came from?
Outside?
Walter Freeman's fucking kitchen.
Why did he have an ice? Oh, because they had to ice pick their freezers. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm just going to let that marinate
His
for a
kitchen.
minute.
I mean, they were pouring alcohol into the wound. It's fine.
Yeah. Right.
I can't.
So with an icepick lobotomy, you didn't need to shave the head and you didn't need to drill holes into it. How this type of lobotomy is performed, even though it doesn't consist of drilling holes into a skull, it's still pretty fucking gnarly. Yeah. And I would encourage people to search YouTube for videos of the icepick lobotomy.
No, thank you.
I feel like it's an important piece of medical history that needs to be seen.
Fine.
Okay. Even I had the opportunity to investigate at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Virginia, which is they performed a shit ton of lobotomies there. And we investigated that night. We did a paranormal investigation. But during the day, they also have tours there, which it's so fucking cool. It's so cool. But in one of the rooms, they had a TV set up where they showed actual lobotomies being performed.
Mm-hmm.
He recorded them. I just sat there speechless because it's so jarring to see that shit happen.
All right, now I gotta look it up.
You have to. I really encourage people to go on YouTube and search for videos of icepick lobotomies. It just needs to be seen. This needs to be seen. I'm sorry. Like, I can't fucking believe they did this to people. But anyway, with an icepick lobotomy, an icepick is entered through the eye socket. So think of that area of your eye that isn't your eyeball and is close to your nasal bone. That's the area that they go in. And what they do is they hammer the icepick into the brain through that socket. Okay? Then they do a little tappy tap and a little wiggle wiggle.
Tap, tap, taparoo.
And you're done. From start to finish, the entire procedure took less than 10 minutes. This procedure was not performed with an anesthetic. They would, however, sometimes use like the electromagnetic shock machines to essentially like knock you out But
yeah. I'm just going to make noises because I can't. I don't have words. Again.
I know. As evident in the photos, which Walter would stop and pose for fucking photos during the procedure while the ice pick was sticking in the socket, this motherfucker would stop and pose for photos.
What an asshole.
As evident in the photos, he wore no gloves.
Oh, God.
He didn't wear gloves during the procedure. The space that he worked in was not sterilized prior to the procedure.
Of course it wasn't.
And you know why? Because Walter was not a fan of following medical protocols. He just kind of like poo-pooed it away because he was like, this is dumb. Why do I have to wear gloves? Why do I have to sterilize shit? This is fucking stupid.
I can't watch this.
Alicia was inspired to go on YouTube and look up lobotomies. It's fucking brutal.
It is. Thank you.
It really is. So due to Walter and his shitty like sanitation process, his partner in crime, James, who was the neurosurgeon who would essentially assist him because he was a neurosurgeon, he had to have a neurosurgeon help him. He decided to part ways with Walter because his ideals no longer aligned with Walter's.
I mean, good on him.
Yes. Yeah, he kind of had a change of heart. And it's said that this change of heart occurred specifically when he walked into an office and saw Walter performing the ice pick lobotomy by himself.
Oh.
And he's not a fucking surgeon.
Yeah, that's not okay.
But according to Walter, he wasn't performing surgery. It wasn't a surgical procedure anymore because it was an ice pick that he just put through the eye socket.
That's not surgery.
Makes sense, right?
No. No, it doesn't.
So instead of taking a second to step back and consider his decisions, Walter pressed forward and at one point performed over 200 lobotomies in 2 weeks.
Stop.
And he charged for it. Usually he charged $200 a pop. No pun intended. So he was making mad money off of this.
Can you imagine? I'm going to stop saying that. I'm sorry.
200 lobotomies in just 2 weeks. So it was basically like just like a sweatshop of lobotomies. People would come in, we'd do a little tappy, and that was it.
It's like McDonald's.
Yes.
It's like a drive-through.
And that was essentially his goal. He wanted to streamline lobotomies. He was like, lobotomies for all. Yeah. You get a lobotomy, and you get a lobotomy, and you get a lobotomy.
Thanks, Mr. Freeman. So generous.
And his marketing of this, it worked because at this point, everyone wanted a lobotomy. You had housewives that were like, fuck it, I can't deal with this shit anymore, lobotomize me. And he would do it. He would do it because they were stressed out. And he was like, this will change your life. Yep.
It's too much.
But I mean, if you think about it, who doesn't want to live in ignorant bliss with essentially no feelings that would separate a human from an animal? Like, think about it in context of the time period, and they didn't have the information that we have now, knowing that this was really fucked up and knowing what the side effects really were.
Yeah.
They were lying about it, obviously. And they were just marketing this procedure to people like it was just like it was going to change your life. It was going to make you happy. So why wouldn't you want one? I probably would have been the first one to fucking line up.
I mean, I'd probably be right behind you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, fuck it. This sounds great.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And like you said, they didn't know as much.
Yeah, and you have to think, like, again, there were not mainstream medications like there are now. There was no Zoloft. There was no Xanax. There was no Pax. Right? So these people were like, I can't live like this. Can you imagine, like, being... I'll come right out and say it. I'm on anxiety meds because I have generalized anxiety disorder. And it's not something you can control on your own, okay? Your brain does what the fuck it wants to do.
Yep.
I hate when people are like, just calm down, just meditate, just relax. No, it doesn't work like that, okay? It just fucking doesn't. And these medications did not exist back then. I cannot imagine having to deal with that and have no treatment option.
No.
Like, that was just your life. You didn't know any other type of life. Like, for us, like, we know what it's like to not be on medications,
right?
And we know what it's like to be on them. We know the difference. We're like, even if you don't take your medication for a couple days, you're like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, you know what it's like to not be on them. They were just raw dogging life. No medication.
God bless them. I called you that one day. I was like, are you mad at me? Are you dealing with any anxiety? Because I have high anxiety. And you were like, no, everything's fine. And I was like, oh, I didn't take my Zoloft. You were like, yeah, that'll do it.
No, but seriously, that
You're right. I was just 2 days in a row I missed it. And I was like, and you should never cold turkey. You should always titrate
oh my God,
down.
no, please don't do that. But you know what, though? If you're on Zoloft, you're probably on, or any type of medication like that, you're probably on it for a reason. And those medications are different because the longer you're on them, the better you feel. And then you think that you don't need them. Okay. And then you get off of them and you realize that you were really fucking mistaken.
Yeah.
And you do, in fact, need them.
Yep.
If you're on medications for that, please don't try to be a hero. Okay. Don't try to get off your meds. Like, I know I'm going on a rant right now, but the medications are there for a reason. You're feeling good for a reason. Don't do that to yourself. And I've done it before.
It's okay.
It's okay to need anxiety medication. 100%. It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay. And it's okay to try it and to fail on it and to try something else.
Exactly.
It's okay. Everything is a process.
Mental health is so fucking important.
I think everybody should have a therapist, honestly. I think everyone.
I think therapists should have therapists.
I'm sure they do. Are you kidding? They probably have a group chat on like Facebook and Instagram and they're like, oh my God, this patient today.
I hope they do, though, because that's a lot to deal with. I can't even deal with my own shit half the time. I can't imagine having to listen to other people's shit. God damn.
But, I mean, I'm a bartender, so basically I'm a therapist.
Oh, my God.
80% of the time, people come at me hard, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I had a guy come in. He was like, I need a Captain and Coke. Double. And I was like, okay. And I could tell he was like messed right then. And I was like, all right, buddy, here you go. He sucked it down in like 3 minutes. And he goes, I'll have another. And I was like,
oh, no.
I was like, you all right? He's like,
no,
yeah.
he's not.
Like, he's like, I just got a lot going on. And I was like, I'm going to get you another drink.
Aww.
And then you're going to tell me about it, okay? He was like, and his eyes lit up. He was like, okay. Like and I'd never seen this guy before. He just needed someone to talk to.
I was just going to say, that's the sad part. Some people they don't even need your advice. They just need you to sit and listen because they don't have anybody that listens to them.
Yeah.
But I digress.
I know. I'm so sorry. Digression.
No, I think I'm the one that went off the rails with that one. But with this time period, it's very easy to see how a lobotomy would be an attractive option for someone, especially a housewife.
100%. But it was probably the only option.
Yeah. I mean, it was either that or be institutionalized or have like electroshock therapy. There were not many options. Yeah.
Hey, I'm having a panic attack. Great. Let's add electricity to it.
Yeah. Or, hey, I'm having anxiety issues. And then your husband puts you in a fucking car and takes you to an asylum. And then you're stuck there for life because you know who the only person that can sign you out of an asylum is?
A man.
The person who put you in there.
Oh, that's a dick move.
When I went to Trans-Allegheny Asylum, they had, and I'm going to do an episode on asylums because asylums are fascinating. But they had a sign there that stated all of the reasons why people were admitted into the asylum. Premenstrual cramps was one of the reasons. I can't even, like, anxiety, depression, crying spells. So, like, normal shit. And a lot of it was women, and their husbands would get tired of it and just take them there and dump them off.
Think about it, though. They could have even gotten a fight, and the guy was pissed off and like, fuck it, I'm taking her to an institution, and they're going to listen to the man at that point.
Yeah, or he could be like my great, 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 whatever grandfather who we found in, when we were doing genealogy, we found that, his wife, my great, 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 whatever grandmother, she was taken to an asylum for like no reason. And then he remarried. So I'm sure you can probably figure out the reason why he dumped her off.
Maybe you're your great, 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 great grandmother, and now you're like...
Maybe that's why I'm so fucking fired up all the time.
See? I guarantee you guys probably have the same fucking personality, and your grandfather was like...
Oh my God!
Oh, shit.
If I was around back then, I 1,000,000% would have been institutionalized by my husband because he would not have been able to deal with me.
That you would have been tearing shit up, man. The institution probably wouldn't have been able to deal with you, and then they would have given you a lobotomy.
Oh my God, that makes me want to cry because these women probably were just like, they just had big mouths like me.
Or they were strong-willed.
Oh,
I know.
That's so fucking sad. I'm going to get back to the story because that's sad.
Well, real quick, one other thing I remember from the time we went to Pennhurst, and they were telling us the reasons. Down syndrome was one too. If someone had Down syndrome, they would drop them off and never. And I'm like, that's not even... That, no.
And you know what else is fucked up? They would also put criminally insane people in there. So you had people with Down syndrome. You had people with premenstrual cramps.
Yeah.
And then you had rapists and murderers all in the same place. I'm about to get fired up.
I mean, you live fired up, so... Yeah. Excuse me.
I live fired up.
Hashtag, we live fired up. Well, no. Hashtag, Christina lives fired up.
I do. God. Who gave me a microphone? No, I'm just kidding.
I did. You're welcome, Amazon.
But yeah, I mean, again, you can see why the lobotomy would be a good option, But yeah, I mean, one of the main themes with lobotomies is that it would essentially cut the feelings out of you that would separate you from like a human and an animal. Like you just were kind of like operating like in an animalistic type manner. You didn't have empathy. You didn't have the feelings that make you human. And, this was a main theme with lobotomies, like the feeling of missing the part of you that makes you human. And one lobotomy survivor named Howard Doley, he's a very famous lobotomy survivor. I think there's a book and there's a lot of literature online about him. He was 12 years old at the time of his lobotomy. The reason he was lobotomized is because like his stepmother didn't like him and basically just didn't want to deal with him anymore. It's a really sad story. But he stated that he always felt like a piece of his soul was missing. He didn't even know that he had a lobotomy performed on him. Yeah, he found out later on in life that he was lobotomized. And he was like, yeah, I always knew something was off.
So you know what is funny that you say that is when you were saying earlier the piece that makes you human, in my mind, I was like, oh, it's like the soul.
Yeah.
Like that's what they say. Like it's,
Some people call the lobotomy like the removal of your soul.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You're essentially just like a zombie, just operating and you don't even have control over your like over your own faculties. Like these people, most of them were incontinent. Yeah. By the late 1940s, early 1950s, the medical community began to sour on the idea of the lobotomy. It was starting to be viewed as both unnecessary and inhumane, which it was. And this caused Walter's peers to essentially turn on him. And by 1954, lobotomies were pretty much completely abandoned as a means to treat mental illness. And do you know what the demise of the lobotomy coincided with? The introduction of antidepressants.
Oh.
Yep. Because, I mean, taking a pill is much easier than having an ice pick shoved in your eye socket.
Is it?
Yeah. By a hairy dude wearing no fucking gloves.
And
in an unsterilized room.
Probably didn't even wash his hands after eating lunch.
While you're awake and conscious and have an audience watching and you're
Poses for
posing
pictures.
for pictures. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe this is real life.
It is. And so Walter, like his last big like attempt at kind of redeeming himself was at this conference where he stood in front of a bunch of his, peers and medical faculty and everything. And they like booed him almost off the stage. So what he did was he went back and he got a suitcase full of letters and he dumped them out in front of everybody. He was like super fucking dramatic about it because he was a showman.
Yeah.
And he was like, these are all the letters from all my lobotomy patients that are thanking me for giving them a better life and blah, blah, blah. And people were still like, no, we're done with this. Get the fuck off the stage. And he was like essentially booed off the stage. Yeah. Yep. But one of the comments was, how many of you can say that your patients give you Christmas cards? And it's like, dude,
everyone.
Not only that, but like of course they're going to send you Christmas cards. They think like a fucking 2-year-old.
Right. They probably don't even spell their name correctly.
Right. So yeah, even in obvious defeat, Walter would not give up because if you've guessed it by now, he had a huge ego and he was just absolutely desperate for recognition and validation. So what he did was he went on a tour performing as many lobotomies as he could.
Lobotomy tour coming soon.
Right.
Wait, let's you and I go on tour. We can call it the Lobotomy tour.
Oh, we
tour.
could.
Toy?
Yeah.
Toy?
If we end up getting famous, putting it out there out in the world, not even famous, like it's just if we ever have the opportunity of
when we have enough followers that would appreciate us to go on a tour.
We're gonna go on the icepick lobotomy tour.
Yes.
Okay. Let's make this happen.
Can we get a van and make it look like an icepick or an old medical van?
My God. Oh, yeah. The other day when I was driving my daughter to school, I saw a white van and it said Brittany's bus on it.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. Right?
We're
manifesting it.
Yeah, I want a Brittany icepick bus.
Yeah. But this motherfucker went on a tour. He went on a lobotomy tour. And in 1967, he performed his final lobotomy, which resulted in the death of his patient.
Of course it did.
During the lobotomy. And that's when he finally was forced to throw in the towel. Shortly after that, Walter was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he spent his remaining days traveling around the country. And what he would do is he would go around and meet his successful lobotomy patients in an attempt to continue his insatiable need for validation until the day he died. It is estimated that Walter performed over 3,000 lobotomies during his career.
Damn.
Yep. And that's the story of the lobotomy.
You say he went around and traveled. Was that like to 2 houses?
No,
it was kidding.
It was to multiple people's houses. Yeah, he just I guess he wanted that validation that what he did wasn't bad. But I think deep down he knew that it was in fact bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, hashtag live laugh lobotomy.
I mean, you got the sign up there.
I do.
That's going to be the name of this episode.
Sure the fuck is. Live laugh lobotomy, guys.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a fucking wild story. A lot of stuff that I didn't know. The Rosemary Kennedy thing really was upsetting. I don't understand. Ugh, what a waste of a life.
The whole thing is upsetting. The fact that people would, the fact that people truly believed that they were going to get help for their mental health and these issues that they were having, and then came out with the mentality of a 2-year-old. Breaks my heart.
Yeah, or it just like, even if it did quote unquote work, it still like took your soul away essentially. Like you weren't who you were before.
Maybe Freeman is actually the devil and he was taking people's souls.
You never know.
Damn. Matrix.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy, man. History's crazy. And I love when like history and true crime, because it's true crime to me because
Agreed.
what he did was fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally killed people. He killed people.
Yeah.
I love when like history meshes with that, and it's interesting to me. But
and it's cool too because you've been to places like Trans-Allegheny.
Yeah.
We've both been to like Penhurst, Never Again. We already mentioned that before in 1,000 different episodes. But it's interesting because we do have that like mental image of what an institution looked like.
Ugh.
Versus, I mean, I just saw the video, like what they actually did. That's,
yeah,
it's gross.
It's crazy. Yep.
So, Chili's?
yeah, I think we're going to take a break and get some Chili's, guys. So go, don't forget to take care of your mental health. All right. Take your meds for today. Get yourself some Chili's. I don't know. Do something nice for yourself to take care of yourself. Have like a bed rot day where you just lay in bed all day in comfy pajamas and watch trash TV. Just take care of yourselves.
Listen
it's important.
To us,
Yeah. Yep. Well, thanks for listening, guys.
We appreciate you and we will miss you.
We will. Until next time.
See you next Tuesday.
But don't be one.
Bye.
Bye.